A few months ago, I began a long-term test on this bike right here, the brand new 2023 Norco Optic C1 in this beautiful gloss blue. Some of you may remember the original video I made of the Optic. I liked the bike, but my thoughts were not exceeding expectations. After riding this bike for 2+ months, I'm going to explain to you why the Norco Optic is one of the best bikes on the market and how my thoughts have changed. During my testing period, I took this bike to all sorts of locations. Today, we'll ride Duthie Hill, my private trails, Galbraith Mountain, Tiger Mountain, Summit Ridge, and if we're lucky, maybe I'll end up taking this short travel trail bike to a downhill park. Before we get into anything about how it rides though, we need to start with some basics. The Norco Optic C1 retails for $6,599 US. It is classified by most people as a trail bike, meaning the Optic gets the best of both worlds between climbing and descending. Most geometry geeks would not consider this the ideal bike for technical descents. I mean, the bike only has 140 millimeters of travel in the front and 125 in the rear. There's no way it can be that good, right? Diving into components, the fork is a Fox 36 Performance Elite. This means you get the standard Fox Grip 2 damper that they're known for, which includes a whole range of adjustment. Both high speed and low speed compression and rebound are spec'd on this bike. I have a Grip 2 on my Norco site, and I've become accustomed to the wide range of adjustment and the easy tunability. The shock on this model is a Fox Float X Performance Elite with 125 millimeters of travel. I'll dive into this later in the video, but I do prefer how this bike in particular rides with Fox suspension rather than RockShox on the other model I tried. The brakes that come stock are the Shimano XTR 4-piston. Brakes are one of the biggest personal preference components on the market, and as partial as I am towards SRAM, these XTR brakes feel pretty dialed. The shifting setup is also full XTR and feels super reliable, well constructed, and easy to shift. Huge thumbs up in both of those regions. Some other smaller components include E13 carbon cranks, 1UP carbon handlebars, Stan's Flow S1 rims, and Vittoria tires. When I was reading over these, I definitely noticed a trend, and there's one thing I want to draw attention to with components. It is very clear that Norco specs this bike like a longer travel, more capable downhill bike. Very rarely do I see a short travel bike with downhill 4-piston brakes, a 36mm diameter stanchion fork, or a piggyback shock attachment. Norco wants this bike to be more capable than people expect, and that definitely proves to be true. I say we start out easy, on local turf riding familiar jumps at Duthie Hill. For those unfamiliar, Duthie Hill is a freeride park in Issaquah with some of the best progressive features anywhere. Let's see what this bike can do.
Alright, rolling into Duthie right now. We haven't had rain in a while. It's looking like it's going to be one of the wetter days for the first few of the season, but we're going to see how the bike rides, so let's get right into it. Man, I've been riding my sight for a while, and then I hopped on this. I just remembered how well it pedals, so my work's pretty easy today. Oh yeah. Crossover here. Got this. Ah, there we go.
The first real jump trail we're going to take a look at is Semperdirticus. This trail just recently got some new modifications and it's running great.
I want it out there.
Yeah. Looks good though. I mean, this whole thing looks really nice. It's riding well. So what are we going to see here? We're going to see overhaul of double, Paramount, Semper, rehab. You have one of the original Ride Bicycles hoodies.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish we still had those. We have other good stuff. Oh, he's rapid. running so good without dust flying in my face every 2 seconds.
Some of these new features are running great. It may be a mix between the clay-based dirt that was delivered or the way the bike is able to snap through corners, carry speed through rollers, and move around in the air. Let's try out some of the new changes on Flying Squirrel now.
Oh, that was the sketchiest whip I think I've ever done.
Despite that awkward whip, the bike was super fun to handle on this trail. I also love the new changes on the top. They make the flow a lot better. Now I have a special treat for all of you. One of Duthie's most technical and fun lines, 12-step, has been closed for a long period for a massive overhaul. The trail will still be closed to finish improvements, so do not attempt to ride it quite yet. However, I was able to get a few test laps in. The Optic is a great bike for it, with tight turns and hip jumps that all work pretty well with the Optic's playful geometry.
Oh hey, it's the master himself. So clean. Ah, that was so bad.
This line is great for dirt jump bikes. I was honestly surprised that I even got this far on my first run. It just goes to show how capable and speed retaining this bike is. I give full credit to the Optic.
Oh yeah.
So this trail is clearly extremely flowy and fun, but I do want to talk about how my thoughts have changed going through a long-term test. This bike is amazing for progression and gives you so much confidence, very similar to my Norco sight. The more I tested this bike, the more I fell in love. I didn't want to stop riding. Getting comfortable jumping this bike gets me to a position of instant but unintended progression, which I really enjoyed during my test. You truly are the driver of this bike and can make it feel like an efficient hardtail for jumps or a more absorbing feel for harsh impacts. Either way, my thoughts have only gotten better. Let's move locations now to Tiger Mountain, where we get to sense this bike's technical capabilities. The thing is, I already know this is a capable bike, so we're going to get right to it and hit Predator first thing.
I'm super interested because I've been trying this bike on like a bunch of stuff. It's 125 travel in the rear. Oh yeah, it's like, they're sweet. I mean, I've loved it, at least from what I've tried so far.
As I made my way down this steep part, I realized that the short travel Fox suspension was doing a great job handling this super chunky and gnarly trail. This bike was definitely more capable than I expected on a trail like this. This gap was an interesting one. I was going a lot faster than expected and just decided to send it for the first time. It turned out pretty well.
Whew.
I'm gonna start by saying this absolutely exceeded expectations, more so than in the last test. I truly did not expect a bike with this short travel to be so efficient, playful, and fun on this type of descent. I certainly want to take this thing to a bike park now. After all, this is a long-term test, so I took it a bunch of places. Before riding Stevens Pass, I took this bike to Black Diamond to get a feel for stability in the air on big jumps. This bike once again exceeded expectations, and I was shocked by the stability and playfulness on these house-sized jumps. One of the highlights of my test was taking this bike to the Mohawk Jump Jam on Galbraith. I got to ride with some people that were extremely stylish and can boost hard. Let's see how this bike stacks up on this trail. This was by far one of the best riding days I've ever had, between the community and the trails, but the bike had a large part to do with this. It made me feel like a more confident rider. When I was on Galbraith that day knowing this bike's capabilities, I also decided to hit Washington State's biggest jump line, Blue Steel.
Let's give it a send.
Not surprisingly, the bike worked great. I expected the Optic to be a fit for smaller jumps at a spot like Duthie, but it clearly handles these massive hits very well. It may seem like I'm raving here, but I honestly am so impressed with the well-rounded nature of the Optic. Testing this bike long-term only made me more stoked. This line feels amazing in the fall too, and the jumps are just built to perfection. It's time for what you've all been waiting for though, Stevens Pass Bike Park. We're going to start on PBR, which is Stevens Pass's black jump line. That trail is just amazing. It felt so good to land every jump incredibly smoothly, and I would not have thought the bike I was riding was designed with barely over half the travel the bike park is designed for. One of the gnarliest lines at Stevens is called Berserker, and with a failed warm-up lap on Slingshot Wookie...
What is this? Okay. Okay.
I decided to just go for it.
Alright, here we go. Berserker on the Optic. Why does this bike ride so well on these streets?
Never would I have expected to ride double black tech at a bike park when I was introduced to this bike for the first time a few months ago. Last time I tested the Optic, my impressions were good, but not standout. This long-term test of the C1 absolutely changed that. I brought my sight to Stevens in case this bike wasn't capable enough, but I never touched it once because I was having such a blast on this bike. It climbs incredibly well, rides extremely playfully and stable on jumps, and plows through tech maintaining its form. I don't think this bike is the standard trail bike. None of the tests pushed this bike anywhere near its limits. The only thing I noticed was in tight corners. The bike mostly kept its composure, but I felt slightly unstable at times when railing through a berm. But overall, I'm not surprised in the slightest that this was nominated for Bike of the Year. With that said, I hope you found this video informational or at least entertaining, and thanks for watching. I'll see you all next time.